Stevie Wonder once said that music, at its essence, is what gives us memories. The longer a song has existed in our lives, the more memories we have of it. Hey everyone, my name is Neil and welcome back to my garage, and today we're going to be making a headphone stand that also holds a phone for my favorite creator, Harry Mack. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so the first place we're going to begin is over at the miter saw. We're going to put down a stop block right here with a clamp because we're going to be cutting a lot of pieces for this project and we're going to do an order. So the first piece that we're going to cut is for the base. We're going to cut that out of walnut, so go ahead and cut that. We're going to take the piece that we need and move that over to the side. Next, we're going to be cutting ash, and we're going to be cutting 2 pieces of that, so that's why the stop block is so important. We cut the first piece, now we have the second, and then we're going to be cutting purple heart. Now, purple heart is going to be key for this project, and you'll see why later, but first we cut our piece here for the base bottom, and then we're going to do it for the base top. And now that we've cut that, we're going to push that off to the side. And then we're also going to be cutting our pieces for our headphone rest, the top part. So we cut our purple heart, and then we also cut our ash for the top part as well. Then we're going to be cutting the walnut for the part. Here we go. Everything we need, we just cut all the pieces. So now we're going to put them in a parallel clamp, and we're going to put tape on there because you do not want to get glue on it. It's going to be hard to dry out. We're going to be taking those pieces again, walnut, purple heart, ash, purple heart, and walnut. Bam, don't forget that order. It's super important. Then we're going to be putting Type on 3 on there because it's my favorite glue and I have so much of it. You could use Type on 2. So we're going to be using and putting the purple heart on top of the walnut now that we have that all glued. And fun fact, this is actually the first time I've ever had to glue up panels like this. So a little nervous, but excited. So now we have the ash on top of the purple heart, and we have the purple heart on top of the ash. And then we're going to round that out by grabbing the walnut, putting that on the purple heart. So that rounds out our 5th layer that we have. And now we're going to take these, we're going to sandwich them together. We're going to put them in 2 parallel clamps. You could use regular clamps, but the parallel clamps are just easier for me to use in this application. So we're going to tighten them down, and you want a nice snug fit on either side. And then you're going to wipe away the excess. Then you're just going to tighten it one little bit more, and then you're going to grab some F-style clamps and you're going to put those on. This may be overkill, but it's better to be safe than sorry for me in this situation, as I've never done this before. And so here for the actual top, we're going to have the walnut, purple heart, ash, purple heart, and then walnut. So we're going to start with the walnut. We're going to put some Type on 3 on that. And then we're going to be putting down the purple heart. Then right after the purple heart, we're going to put down the ash right in the middle there. Once we have that on top of the purple heart, we're going to put some more purple heart on top of the ash. And then right after the purple heart, we're going to put our walnut on top of that. And then we're going to sandwich these pieces of lumber together. And we are going to put those in another parallel clamp. Again, you want to tighten that down and make sure that alignment's good, wipe off the excess, and then we're going to be using an F-style clamp just as the security measure to hold the top in place. So we're going to let those sit overnight. I'm going inside. And the next day, we're going to come outside and we're going to start taking off our clamps so that we can take the base out of the parallel clamps. So we'll go ahead and take those out. This is where the tape came in handy because there's no glue on the clamp, and this looks good. It's not going anywhere. It's nice and stiff, and this is a close-up of what the base looks like for now. We're going to take the rest, or the top part, out as well. We're going to pull that out. Then same thing. It's solid. So my first glue up went well, and now it's time to cut these. So we're going to move them over to the table saw, and we're going to cut them so that we get a nice straight edge here for the base. And then we're going to do the same thing for the rest. We're going to cut it, and then we're going to cut it lengthwise to size. So for the bottom part, I believe that's going to be a little over 4 inches, and then this rest here is going to be a little over 2 inches. So now that we have those cut, we're going to add the hole that we need for the dowel. We're going to move over to the drill press, and we're going to use a Forstner bit to drill down to the depth that we need. One day I'll get a drill press vise, but for now we're just going to use a clamp. And then same thing here on the base. We're going to drill down until we reach our desired depth. What I like about these Forstner bits is that they cut very well. And here you can see how clean this hole looks. And then we also need to cut the dowel, so we have a scrap piece of walnut. So we're going to cut that to size here over on the miter saw. We're going to use tape to ensure that we don't get any splinters. Then we're going to take that base and we're going to move over here and we're going to cut our groove for our cell phone or our mobile device, whichever one you want to call it. We're going to remove our debris and we're going to check the depth with our combination square because we can only go 1/8 of an inch deep at a time. So we need to go down a little bit further. So here's what the groove looks like without being cleaned up. It's not bad, and it's exactly the width that we want it to be. So we're going to do the same thing for the rest. We're going to go ahead and cut that groove for the top. And we're going to move our plywood over because we're using it as a guide. Then we're going to run through with the router again, and we're going to keep doing this until we get the required material removed. And then we're going to take off the excess that we have. Since this is a small piece, we're going to use a pool saw in order to get rid of that excess. And then we're going to take a chisel and we're going to clean up the groove on the base, as well as we're going to take the time to sand it so that it's nice and clean for when we add our finish. And then as you can see, that's what it looks like cleaned up. Pretty good and not bad for my first time. And then now we're going to do the same thing for the rest. We're going to take a chisel and then we're going to sand that down as well with a block. Just use a square piece of scrap wood that you have to make sure you sand that down nice and good. Now you can use some scrap sandpaper to go ahead and start sanding down the profile for the rest that you need, and take your time. I'm going to be doing this for at least 45 minutes. Once we have our headphone rest sanded, we're going to go ahead and cut our 1/4 inch roundovers in our base. So we're going to use a router. We have the extra piece of plywood to have more stability for the router. We're going to do that on all 4 sides. So then after we do that, we're going to clean it up with some sandpaper to make sure the profile is nice and round. Do that on all 4 sides and then take it out of the vise. And then we are going to put a round over on all of the edges because walnut is pretty sharp. And now it's not as sharp as it was, and we're still going to sand that down a little, but I'm just checking it. It looks good. So now we are going to add water to our pieces so that we can raise the grain. The reason why we're going to water pop these pieces now is because if we add finish, it's going to raise the grain and then our part is not going to be smooth because all those grain hairs are going to be standing up. So if we wet the parts now, it'll raise the grain and then we could sand it down. And then when we add finish, it'll be nice and smooth. So I'm going to let these dry and I'm going to go inside and get something to drink. Okay, I got my drink, and now that these are dry, it's time to sand them down. Again, the grains are raised, and now we're just going to sand that down with a random orbital sander and whatever scrap sandpaper that we need in order to reach our profile. Now that that's good, we're going to grab some Type on 3, and we're going to put glue in the hole for our headrest, and we're going to take glue and put it on our dowel and put it in our headrest. And knock it in with a hammer because we want to make sure that stays there. This is plenty strong, but again, I want to make sure that this stays, and then we're going to clean it up with some water right now to get rid of the extra glue. Then we're going to put some glue in the hole for the base, and we're going to use that and take our dowel and put that in the hole, and we're going to use that for alignment. This worked during a dry fit, but luckily I got it aligned in time before it dried up, and then we're just going to take some water and clean off the bottom. So now that we have the top and the bottom aligned, all 3 pieces, we are going to put some clamps on them, just 1 clamp, and then hold it overnight. And then over here, we're going to be using Rubio Monocoat and Rubio Monocoat Cleaner. This cleaner will ensure that the oil adheres directly to the wood and none of it to the dust, dirt, or oil that you have on the part currently. So you want to let it sit for anywhere from 15 to 60 minutes, depending on what type of environment you're in. So while that's drying, we're going to go ahead and mix up our Rubio Monocoat. We're going to be doing 3 parts oil, 1 part hardener to ensure that it dries in time because the concert for Harry Mack is in less than 6 days. So this needs 5 days to dry and cure. And so we're going to be adding oil. Make sure you don't miss any spots and get everything. You can never put too much and then wait 10, 15 minutes and then take it off with a towel like I did. But make sure you dispose of your towel correctly. Okay, guys, and here's how it came out. This is the headphone stand after it's been dry for about 2 days, and it is beautiful. I'm so in love with the way it came out, and this was such a fun build. I can't wait to give this as a present. And then here is what it looks like with a headset and a phone. This is beautiful. And thank you to you guys for sticking with the video for this long. I appreciate it. Peace.